Dear viewers, wherever you are, hello and welcome to this new episode of your program, Out of the Box. This is the second time we're meeting to talk about an outstanding figure in human history. The great philosopher, economist, sociologist, journalist, historian, and I can just go on forever, a man with many, many hats, the great Karl Marx. In this episode, we will talk about two areas that he talked about a lot extensively, and he dedicated a lot of his writings to talk about the very detrimental effect that these two things can have. Because mass media, or media in general, or mass communication, is very frequently used in political propaganda by politicians and by theologians, etc., etc. Also, religion is used very frequently, and the resort to religious sentiment, which sometimes comes mixed with patriotic and nationalistic sentiment as well. These are used together to mesmerize and hypnotize the masses, to the extent that Karl Marx called it the opium of the masses, because they can be manipulated to give very different perceptions to the viewers or the receivers, and they can manipulate the mind, and they can also patronize the receivers. To shed more light on the effect of mass media and religion on the masses through Karl Marx's view and how we might perceive it today, I'm really delighted to be accompanied by Ahmad Barsoum, the free thinker and writer. Ahmad, hello and welcome to the program.
Hello, Muhammad, and thank you again to have me with you. And of course, I'm always delighted to be with you and your distinguished viewers and followers.
Pleasure is always mine. And to start off, I'd usually like to ask you, Karl Marx lived during the 1800s. He lived his life in Germany. He lived a great part of his life in England as well. And he, went to different other countries. He lived in a time where it's the end of an era of rapid change. So it is rapid change from the medieval period that path through the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, the Industrial Revolution, and whatnot, the transformation from the feudal society to the industrial society, and so on. And Karl Marx himself was a journalist. To what extent do you think that the circumstances surrounding him during his time led him to have this point of view about both religion and media?
Well, before we go to this interesting part that you mentioned about Karl Marx's role in the media, I would like to discuss a small point that you mentioned in the introduction, which is opium is, or religion is the mass of opium of masses. I'm sorry. According to the German English translation, which is the correct one, I have read it in many references, they should say opium or religion is the opium of people. And it put it in an absolute form. Because of masses, that means it's a group of people or number of people. So in a football stadium, there are mass of people there. Those could be one mass of people. If you go to one religion only, it could be mass of one religion. But what Karl Marx meant exactly is the religion is opium of people. The word people in his saying in German is Volk. It's a V-O-L-K. The word means people in German.
Yeah.
So that's why,
for example,
I'm more in favor of this translation. When I read it, when I referred to this before in my readings, I found out this is more actually close to what Karl Marx meant than specific masses of or groups of people.
And do you think that he meant people rather than masses, or was he referring to mob, the word
I,
mob,
I believe he meant people in general. It's
in
an absolute
general.
term.
Okay.
I would say it now as human beings. Let's put it
Okay.
that way. Human
Okay.
beings. Because the majority are affected by religion. And that's why I would say that the minority will not be in this group of people. So we go with the majority. It is the people in an
And
absolute term.
he talked about religion, and he was a journalist as well, and he had many writings. He wrote many, many books, more than 60 books, I believe. And um, what is the interplay between media and religion?
Okay. Uh, the first part of the discussion we had, we said that being Karl Marx being a journalist,
Mm-hmm.
that gave him a first-hand approach to the media, of course, which made him close to other media, which is newspapers. At that time, there was only newspapers, but they're very effective. And he was himself a writer, and he has the chance to review all the other publications, whether in Germany or England when he moved in. I'm sure that this helped a lot for him to formulate his message as well, based on his ability to write in newspapers. Because as you are our professor of media, of course, Muhammad, and you know that whenever you want to transfer an idea or send it to masses, or you have to put it through media. And actually, media is the wagon that carries all the ideas and thoughts and spread it everywhere. Or as if you put the information in a balloon and send it to the air, and then the balloon explodes and the information fell on everyone. So Karl Marx maybe used his media in his favor to send his message as much as he can in one side. But at the same side, he is also faced with the message of the religion through media as well, that was maybe louder than his message, because the religion, as we said, is the opium of people. So it will spread more and easier because it tranquilizes people. So the message that is carried by the media in a religious form definitely will act as more of a numbing factor for the mass of or the majority of the people. So
Well,
yes, of
yeah.
course. Yeah.
First and
Sorry.
foremost, I must thank you for this extensive compliment that I'm not worthy of. I'm
No,
being
it's
any professor. I'm just, like I just try. But so you would see that religion is a form of a tranquilizer, really. It sort of,
oh,
and
absolutely.
it would numb the mind rather than the limbs, or like, it would.
That's
So,
exactly what Karl Marx thought about, that the religion numbs the minds of the proletariat and all the middle class and all the workers, and we call it the warfare from the how we say the capitalists, how they use them, the capitalists,
hmm.
opportunists, how they feed on their sweat and blood. And at the same time, also those people are tranquilized and are blinded from seeing this misery because of the religious message, which is carried through the media. And the media now is serving both things, serving the religious purpose and also the capitalist purpose.
And yeah, like they're always exploited by the owners of the means of production.
It is
And
exploitation, of course. Yes, that's what I wanted to say. It is exploitation. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And that's where Karl Marx realized that he has, well, by the way, Karl Marx was not against religions as people think he was, but he was trying to alienate the religion from the message or from the rhetoric to the people about, or the labor, how to unite and how to demand for their rights. He was telling them, just keep your minds a little bit open to the world rather than to the religion. Because in fact, the religion did not solve their problems, the poverty, the misery, the very bad living condition they had suffered from in Europe. Because Europe has have told us, the history told us, how the labor, this category of people, were suffering a lot, whether in the in the coal mines, in the factories, in many places. Although it was not feudal age, but the working conditions and the pay was horrible. Was did not provide any good life for them.
Yeah, unfortunately, the situation of the workers in the factory was not any different from the serfs situation during the feudal age. Just before we proceed, let's just remind our dear viewers with the most important ideas of Karl Marx through this short report, and we'll resume.
Marxism is a social and political theory about socio-economic struggle. The Communist Manifesto of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, the two German philosophers, explained class struggle and revolution. Marxist economics focused on criticizing capitalism that Karl Marx wrote about in his book Das Kapital, published in 1867. Marx's class theory conceptualized capitalism as one step in the historical progression of economic systems that follow each other in a natural sequence. According to Marx, the capitalist society consists of two classes. The first class, the bourgeoisie, or business owners who control the means of production, and the proletariat, or workers whose labor transforms raw commodities into valuable economic goods. Since workers do not own the means of production, such as factories, buildings, and materials, so they will have little power in a capitalist economic system, where also in this system, workers can be easily replaced, thereby reducing their perceived value, and thus making them extremely expendable. To maximize their profit, business owners will try to get the most out of their business by paying the workers the lowest possible wages. This results in an unfair imbalance between owners and workers whose labor is exploited by employers for their own gain. Since workers have little personal interest in the production process, Marx believed that they would become detached from it and will resent their employers. The bourgeoisie, or business owners, use social institutions, including government, the media, academia, organized religion, banking and financial systems, as tools and weapons against the proletariat or workers, with the aim of maintaining their position of power and privilege. Ultimately, the underlying inequalities and exploitation between the working class and the owners will lead to a revolution in which the working class will rebel against the bourgeoisie and will eventually take control of the means of production and abolish capitalism. Thus, Marx believed that the capitalist system contains, by its very nature, the seeds of its own destruction. According to Marx, the revolution of the workers will be led by enlightened leaders known as the vanguard of the proletariat. The vanguard of the proletariat will understand the class structure of society and will work to unite the working class by increasing public awareness. As a result of the revolution, Marx predicted that private ownership of the means of production would be replaced by collective ownership. And in the last stage of human evolution, there will be no social classes or any class struggle.
Dear viewers, after watching this report, we're back again with our guest, Ahmad Barsoum. So, Ahmad, media gives us a lot of perceptions, and usually people would never, like the owner of the camera or the owner of the pen, the holder of the pen, seldomly, if actually never, conveys the whole truth. They always choose to reveal a part and conceal a part, driven by a specific agenda. And religion, again, is always open to interpretation. And many people accuse theologians throughout history of doing the same, just like people working in media would just reveal a part, conceal another part to give us a specific perception. Men of religion do the same as well. They sort of, manipulate religion, and they would, again, choose to share one kind of interpretation of the sacred text and hide another completely different interpretation. Of course, during the time of Karl Marx, in Europe, there were different, we had the Orthodox, we had the Catholics, and Protestants as well. There were like, wars. There were like a lot of conflicts between all these different sects. We also had the Ottoman Empire at the time in the East, representing Islam and so on. We witnessed some upheaval, some unrest, some conflicts. Again, I would like to repeat my first question, but maybe in a different context. Do you think that Karl Marx, being from Germany and moving to England, played a major role in his writings? Like if he was, for example, Russian, or if he was French, do you think he would have written something different? Or if he did not go to England?
I wouldn't believe this would change anything, because what England at that time was like Germany. Both were strongly capitalist countries. They depend on the Industrial Revolution. Actually, it started in England, in Manchester, and then moved to Germany, and then but flourished in Germany. So those two countries actually they played a major role in the Industrial Revolution and the modernization of industry and introducing the power of the water vapor, and also all other mechanical, as we know it, mechanical things. But yes, Karl Marx would definitely have nothing changed about his ideas if he moved to any country. On the contrary, actually, I believe that Karl Marx theories, of course, predicted that the labor revolution against the capitalism should start in Germany or England. He never thought about Russia or China or any other Eastern countries, of course.
Absolutely,
because it has to come out from the capitalist regime or the capitalist model, not the
and industrial rather than feudal, which is the very distorted version that Lenin later on implemented.
Yes, because the industrial model actually created the real capitalism, because the need for industries created banks, and banks created lending money and stocks and shares, and this whole system is created by the need of industry, or the industry for products and for even for service as well. So service, any service is an industry still. So it's away from the agricultural world and away from the feudal world, of course.
Now, religion, do you think that he opposed religion from which perspective exactly? Because religion might have two very different effects. First of all, like it might be seen as a tool that is used by despots, by dictators, by hegemons, like all people who would like to have absolute power or absolute monarchy at that time. And they're not ready to share any power with the people. So they would get theologians who would tailor religion in order to curb and, pacify any form of revolution that might happen against the leader. On the other hand, some people would look at religion just like Karl Marx word is like opium. It takes them to another world. It sort of keeps them very secluded from the real world and takes them to a spiritual world, an imaginary world, a utopia, and makes them sort of completely withdrawn from the actual world. So which side do you think that he criticized religion for? Being used as a means to support corruption and support absolute rule, or as something that sort of hypnotizes people or like makes them high, actually takes them to a different world?
Yes. Actually, we cannot separate both of these effects of religion on human beings. And if let's go back a little bit in history, and we will see that the first nation or the oldest civilization that had religion affecting life of people and is enforced by the higher priests in favor of the ruler or the king were the ancient Egyptian religions. They actually were made and tailored in order to convince the public that this king sitting on the crown of Egypt, actually he's a divine person, or the representative of the God on earth, or the God at that time on earth. Even more, many of those, we call them pharaohs, this is a mistaken, they are kings or emperors or whatever, the rulers. Those rulers actually, they have driven the right to rule based on what the priests of the temple said, that this king, for example, like Tutankhamun, for example, he was born through divine birth. And that's something started long time ago. And there are so many kings in the history of mankind. Even Alexander the Great, by the way, although he's not Egyptian, when he came to Egypt from Macedonia to start to have it as a base of his empire, he invaded peacefully. You know why? Simply because he made a deal with some of the Egyptian priests at that time to declare him as a son of a god, and that he was born by divine birth from a mother without a father. Then he could claim the throne of Egypt. And that's what happened in reality. That's how Alexander the Great, a foreigner, not an Egyptian, could inherit the power in Egypt and become the founder of the Ptolemaios, since his rule for 300 years until Cleopatra. So he, by the religion, ruled Egypt for 300 years and his family. And again, now in the history as well, you can see so many things, especially in Europe during the Catholic Church. All the kings of Europe were crowned by the Pope and by the blessing of the Pope. And then when the Pope puts his hand on the head of the king, that is a declaration that God is giving the Pope the right, or the proxy from God to crown this king and announce him as a king, the power to crown the kings. And even if there were any kind of coup at that time, they would say that the Pope will stand up and say, oh yes, now I'm changing. God told me to change the blessings from this person to another person. And we know that in history so much. So yes, let's go back now. Religion was made or was used as well as a tool to reign and to control and to receive the blessed power, or receive the power that no one from the public can deny it. Because if you deny the king's rule, you are denying God's will. And in that point, the solution is to be prosecuted and killed in many religions. At that times, in the medieval ages, even in these days as well, you can find it in some regions. People would be killed if they refuse the God's Sharia or God's will or God's message to a certain group of people.
Yeah, so
And
disobeying the ruler is a form of blasphemy and heresy.
yes, disobey God, because this ruler was chosen by the God. So you see it we've seen it in Egypt, ancient Egypt. We've seen it in the Roman Empire, the Catholic Church, and also in the Sharia, the Islamic
Yeah.
Sharia. All of them, they share the same concept. You disobey rules, you disobey God, then you have to be prosecuted or maybe exterminated or beheaded or whatever the punishment would be. And
Yeah.
but on the other side, this fear from disobeying the divine power or the divine message has transferred through history to become from a fearing point to a numbing factor. So that's why what Marx said, it was the evolution and development of the religious belief to become an opium,
Mm-hmm.
because through time the people, the public, the non-royal, the lower classes, middle classes, they realize that the divine power is not giving them anything. So let's use it to keep us, to give us hope for the future, to give us hope that one day things will change. But also maybe if we obey God through this religious message, then we will be rewarded later on in other life maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we go back to the rule of the church, let's say in Europe at that time, they were influencing this idea on the workers and on the laborers to keep doing their job in favor of the capitalists. So the capitalists will get them do what they want with lower rates or lower wages, because God wants them to accept the condition until they get a better thing in other life or maybe in the future.
Okay. So that's a very interesting, of course, analysis. And in your view, to Karl Marx, did Karl Marx see theologians or clergymen or priests or whatever, did he see them as conjurers? So who would just summon this devil or this demon and this evil spirit and to possess the body, and then he was just, in his writings, were a form of an incantation to form some form of exorcism for this demon? Or did he see a theologian or a priest rather than a conjurer, just someone who would take the sacred text and distort it? In other words, was the problem in the sacred text itself, according to Karl Marx, or in the malinterpretation of the theologians?
In the beginning, it was in the malinterpretation, because as I said earlier, Marx in the beginning was not against religion itself,
Mm-hmm.
but he was against the message that is delivered to the masses or to the people. And
Okay.
that's what he was writing about in his first writings. That, again, his theory developed later on to see it as an evil, of course, and that there will be no revolution against capitalists, and there will be uprise of the labor without dropping the religion completely or disregarding it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he ended up, he was, I will quote from his, actually I have to quote it. He said, Marx said that if religion is the opium of the people, it is the sigh of the oppressed creature, the heart of the heartless world, and the soul of our soulless conditions. And if you sum up all these definitions, yes, he sees religion later on as evil.
Mm-hmm.
Because what could do these things to people? They are oppressed. They are living in a heartless world, and they have the conditions has no soul. So what led to these things? How can you get out of these things? Because these created by the capitalists, which are protected by the religion. So if religion is protecting capitalists on their big plot to oppress people, then religion is evil.
So you would agree with people if they say that definitely atheism is a prerequisite for communism?
No, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
Because even in history, we have seen lots of communists worldwide, and they didn't become atheists. Maybe they were skeptical, maybe they were just believing in superpower, in God, but without practicing religions. And it varied between one who is completely atheist or one somebody who's against religions to someone who is religious, but he believes in the equality and the social justice. And this, by the way, actually, I'm glad that you raised this question because a few days ago I was discussing with some people one of my articles about social justice, and they again accused me that these are communist ideas. I said, come on, why we talk about social justice as a communist idea? Why capitalist system or capitalist formula cannot produce the social justice? Because if you want to create a social justice, it has nothing to do with capitalist, communist, or social, whatever. We have to have equality for people, and equality for people so everybody can have the right education, the food on the table, and also the medical care. It's basic needs for humanity. If you can provide this, then you have succeeded. Whether you're socialist, whether you are capitalist, whether you are communist, provide these three things, and people will be happy, and they will not suffer from any oppression or any, or they will even fall under the opium. They will get rid of the opium as well.
I understand what you're saying. You know, like in this debate, like the rebuttal would usually be, and the counter argument would be that, you know, okay, you say that religion is source of all evil, etc., etc. Okay, very well. But what do you think of the Soviet experience or the Chinese experience or like, etc., etc.? There are many, many nations that were totally irreligious or atheists, but there is a lot of oppression, a lot of exploitation to the people. So really, getting rid of religion did not solve any problem.
But again, we said before in the previous meeting we had together about Karl Marx that the Soviet example, the Chinese example, actually were wrong. These
Yeah.
are not what Marx wanted. In fact, they have manipulated the theories of Marx to serve their purposes, to become tyrants and to become dictators. Look at Stalin, for instance. Stalin was a dictator. And then, if a dictator decided to lead this way, then I'm sure he will not follow anything of Marx, so he can create his own. And he interpreted mistakenly what Marx said about religion, that is an opium. Because there are two interpretations of opium here. Some historians said that he meant opium as a forbidden substance. So that's why it became illegal. So that's why religion is illegal. That's how
Okay.
Stalin have seen it. But in fact, opium at that time when Marx spoke these words was legal. So there is a huge difference. So it is not forbidden. It is just giving a numbing effect on the masses, on the people. So if for someone like Stalin considered opium as an illegal material, then okay, by default the religion, because it's like opium, will be illegal. And that's why they tended to drive people to stay away from churches and to prosecute Jews in Russia. And that's what happened. And in the Soviet Union, I mean, not Russia, that was Soviet Union. So Jews and Christians suffered because of wrong interpretation of Stalin. Maybe it's on purpose. He deliberately made this wrong interpretation to gain power on people and to be himself the higher priest that practiced the same thing thousands of years ago in the modern life.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, I do not support the idea that a communist country has to be non-religious, or maybe because of Chinese model is different because there is big
Course,
difference
yeah.
between China and Soviet. Soviet Union was following one of the Abrahamic religions, two of them, which is the Judaism and Christianity. And even there were lots of Muslim states as well that became under the
Absolutely.
Soviet
Yeah,
Union.
absolutely.
So the oppression was against the three religions that what we call the Abrahamic religions or the divine religions.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it has a specific model in it. Regardless of what's happening in China, that's the Buddhist country. And actually, by the way, Chinese, even before the communism, they were non-believers, most of them. The
Mhm.
Buddhists are non-believers, so it wasn't something strange to introduce idea that is calling to stop praying because they already didn't pray.
Yeah, but
And
in China, the motto there is the motto is like to believe in yourself, and
yes,
this is the slogan that they would have, like believe in yourself. And again, religions are not welcome in China very much. Like
because they believe in the individual.
mhm.
The Chinese philosophy, even long time ago, before even communism, they believe in the individual because the individual can build, can create things, and thus, if everybody creates and builds, then all the country, all the nation will rise up together. And by the way, this is not different than the American pragmatism. It's the same. Carl Gustav Jung and William James, they say the same thing because pragmatism is based on that everybody, if I'm pragmatic, you're pragmatic, and my neighbor is pragmatic, work only for our own benefit, then all of us will work for the benefit of the place unintentionally, and the whole community will rise with this. So two examples of individualism existed in the capitalist country and the communist country. They all led to the same uh, purpose, which is the rise and the well-being of all the society.
Going back again to the definition, of opium again. So opium is generally defined as a narcotic, but can we say that if we reduce the dose, it can only be a tranquilizer? So, in other words, religion is okay as long as you don't become extra dogmatic. Is that fair to say? So, if you leave room for skepticism, for further interpretation, be open to differences.
I like that, by the way. That's a very nice debate. But I will tell you something. It's very interesting as well. And that's just keep to mind now. You said that small doses of any narcotic might not give this effect of large doses. But we all know that a small dose of narcotic will not be enough in the future. So you need to increase the dose
Mhm.
and so on and so on. And then you become addict. So small dose of a narcotic will equal a big dose in the future because the body will get used to it. So again, if we use the religion in this analogy, if you go to if you want to pray for one day, I mean 1 hour in a day, and then you're talking to whatever religion you're using, nothing happens in your life. So you need to talk more. So you start to talk 2 hours. Then you
Mhm.
start to fast. Then you start to go to pilgrimage. Then you start to go to visit the religious places, and you start to do many things just in order to get more reward of that, which is not coming at all, by the way. So
But
it's
but
like a
how,
kind of
how about how about viewing prayer rather than a way to escape from this life, or as a tool to summon some kind of a miracle? What if you just see it as a form of, you're just trying to like a form of meditation. You're trying to meditate. If you see it just as a form of meditation, period, and then you're still open to the world. You're not expecting that this prayer will solve my problem. No. If I want to solve my problem, I have to follow a logical path, with
yes, yeah, you have to
normally.
analyze the problem, find
Exactly.
the
But this is just a form of ventilation. It's a form, again, it's meditation. And meditation, whether religious or non religious, is usually perceived as a very positive practice.
Okay, I will have to draw a line here between meditation and praying. When you meditate, you are not expecting a result out of this except your well-being and the calmness of your mind and some tranquility in your muscles. So
Mhm.
it's more of a physical, biological state, which you are trying to achieve through meditation. Of course. So it could be practiced by any kind of religion or any kind of belief or no belief. So
Exactly.
it's a global practice.
Yeah.
But praying for a certain religion has a purpose. There is no one praying for no reason. Every religion, every person following any religion, he is praying for two main reasons. Because the religion asks him to do so and to achieve what he wants. Where, of course, the priests and the clergy, they told him, and the theologians told him or her, that if you want to get your things done, you have to pray. If you want to live a better afterlife, you have to pray. If you want to succeed in your life, you have to pray. If you want to have children, you have to pray. So, or do the religious rituals. Okay, so there is a purpose. Expecting a result from it. Meditation, you don't expect a result material. All you need is to be by yourself for an hour. So just focusing on your breathing and breath and the nature and listening to the sound of the nature away from any technology, just to unswitch and unwind yourself. Same like the practice which is called the sensory deprivation, where you deprive your senses for some time from hearing or seeing, and also you're floating in salt, high salt, so you can float your body. You defy gravity as well. These things will put your atmosphere that you are isolated from the world for about 50 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, depends on how you can do it, and you come back. What do you expect from this? Just relaxing your mind and body. That's all. So we can carry on with the struggles and difficulties and stress of life. Meditation will do the same thing, but religion will not do that.
So again, like it might be again the interpretation of religion, really. So because if you believe in a just God, there's no way that this God will give you something that you did not work hard for just because you prayed. This is this is counter proper belief. And the other critical part here, which will bring us back to a philosopher we discussed earlier, like Kant, for instance. So the eternal notion of virtue and vice, and so religion is seen as a major source of firmly I would say, cementing the importance of virtues versus vices, while other philosophers like Kant and even earlier said that no, virtues and vices are built within.
Yes, yes. Like the yin and yang.
So yeah, like darkness and so white and black, they have the seeds of one another. Yes. There's always this eternal exchange between them. You have the seed of darkness within light and the seed of light within darkness. So a world without religion would be a better world. You would see that, like, according to Marx ideas. So if religion,
I have to ask you a question first. Which religion? We have 4,400, 500 religions in the world.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Which one of them would make the world a better place to live in?
So
we don't know.
Just forgetting about all of them altogether and just having humanity prevail.
Humanity. Yeah. Okay. So
would that bring a utopia?
One of the things behind the evolution of human thoughts in the form of religion was due to, or because they wanted to create a society that would be law-abiding people in it and work with ethics and principles, which is basically do not steal, do not kill, do not lie, all these things, which is, we thought it's 10 commandments. They are more than this, according to the Book of Dead of the ancient Egyptians, where it actually was the birth of the human conscience, to tell the whole world what is wrong, what is right from a human perspective.
Yeah, the Mani Papyrus. Yeah, the Mani Papyrus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So whatever was written on those papyrus and those treasures actually of humanity were considered the dawn of conscience. So the dawn of conscience was born in the ancient Egyptian history, created the ancient Egyptian religion, which then afterwards became the roots for many Middle Eastern and I would say Mediterranean religions, some of North
Okay.
African religions, regardless of the region that were created in the Far East by similar conditions, actually. So obviously, all the civilizations, in order to rise and to flourish, they needed the code of ethics. And this code of ethics, we call it religion. So if we use this code of ethics in different forms, in different based on the geographic and cultural place, it will be a religion. That's why I would say that the code of ethics is importantly required to form a civilized nation or a civilized group of people. Civilized here doesn't mean that we use of technology. I mean that they can deal with each other within laws and within fear of punishment, because if they do not follow the rules, they will be punished. The same thing religion says, if you don't do this, you will be punished. And the punishment is either on earth or in heaven. If you don't go to heaven, you go to hell. That's the punishment. So again, code of ethics equals religion. So whether you call it code of ethics, whether you call it religion, whether you call it a constitution of a society, they all lead to the same thing, is to create a proper, harmonized community, living in peace and living with lots of prosperity as well.
And maybe this might be, I don't know, like a rhetorical or like extra philosophical question here, but like usually the when people accuse religion, they usually the stigma is really with the Abrahamic religions, and
Yes.
mostly with the last two, and because it's usually said that the whole idea of having a universal religion. So, like other religions do not call for a universal brotherhood of believers, or does not call for like that the only path or the only way to lead to God is this path. So as long as I have a steadfast life and I do good and whatnot, probably I would, go to heaven, or I would become at one with the Creator. And even if I do not have, I have a second chance or a third chance or a fourth chance until I would have, the nirvana. So there's like the whole notion of samsara and karma and all that stuff. But in the last two Abrahamic religions, you don't have that. It's just one shot. And no matter how much virtue you might show, if you do not follow this specific path, you're doomed. As long as, of course, you've been told about this religion. The only thing that might, save you is that you were not told about this religion, or the message that reached you was a distorted one. But as long as you were given that message in an undistorted manner, you'll be always held accountable for this. And this would definitely lead to your human demise.
Well, I see it sometimes like the what we call the unilateral contract, or the binding contract. When you sign a contract with a service provider for internet, for instance, the whole contract of 20 pages is only benefits of the service provider, not you. So you have to abide by all these things in order to get the service, but you have no rights at all. Same thing. And by the way, we have to focus as well on something very important. It's the conditions and the nature where those two last religions of the Arab religions came out. And if that's another whole subject, we can discuss it on a specific topic
Of
sometimes.
course, and basically what I'm trying to say is the whole idea of preaching. Like other
Yes.
religions do not really
No. Yes.
preach. You don't find sort of missionaries in other religions, but you find that in the last two.
Yeah, because they are very interrelated actually, and if you look at it from non-biased vision to it, you'll see that both actually they originated from the same roots
Mhm.
and from the same message, and maybe they took different paths based on the geographic locations, cultures, economic conditions, languages at that time. Many factors could have created these differences. However, they are same roots. And if you look at even deeper, you will find that some rules in one religion would only be applicable in that area, and the others are only applicable to that area because of weather, for instance.
Mhm.
Find lots of things like weather. And I don't want to get into details because this is a different subject completely. It's a huge one. But if we, according to comparative theology, in fact, the three Abrahamic religions are interrelated in a way that they can form one religion
Yeah,
or one belief.
there's a lot of proximity in, like, the area
Yes.
where they all started. It was basically in the Levant, or like the Fertile Crescent, or like Middle East.
Yeah.
But maybe one of them, like especially the last two, one of them spread westwards, the other one spread eastwards, and then the clashes between both, and we went through a lot of bloodshed and a lot of
Yeah.
turmoil and a lot of atrocities.
I
Um,
believe the spread west and east uh, I was attributed to the languages
mhm.
because I will give an example. For Christianity, Bibles were written in Greek,
Yeah.
and Greek language at that time was the language of the Illuminati and of the enlightened people and the well-educated and intelligentsia. So that's why this religion started to develop more and more in the West and in Egypt. Why? Because the Coptic religion at that time was made of Greek religion.
Mhm.
It was a derivative. So that's helped the religion to grow in these places. Where the other religion, the Islam, was in Arabic, which is a Semitic language, and it found its way easy in the areas where they speak Aramaic, they speak Hebrew, they speak Urdu, they speak Farsi, and Pashto. All these areas, they're speaking a language driven from the family of the Arabic, or Arabic is one of them.
Yeah,
So
because
that's
actually,
how.
again, like Christianity, like if you look at the land of Judea,
Yeah,
where it originally started, and like it was under Roman control.
yeah,
So Roman presence was very, very obvious there. While in Arabia, Persian presence was very
yeah.
obvious. There was conflict between Persians and Romans, but the Persian component prevailed generally. And since the very beginning, there was a Roman part in the message here, and a Persian part in the other message. Maybe like that lurked behind the facade, but it was there. It was there
It is,
in both.
yeah, it is the influence of geography and language.
Mhm.
Simply like this, yes.
Absolutely, and of course, this is an entirely different matter that we can talk about for ages and ages
For
and ages.
ages, yes, and we can bring it back from 5,000 years ago until now, and we every year has a different story to tell.
Absolutely, absolutely. Matt Barsoum, thank you very much for being with me tonight, and really looking forward to having you time and again.
Thank you, my dear friend Mohammed, and I always admire the way you ask the questions because it brings out many things we can always think about, you and I, all
But
the time.
definitely, it's mutual, because having guests who totally knows what they're saying, it really helps you pose the questions. So I really thank you very much for being with me.
Thank you so much for having this chance as well again, and all the best to the viewers and to yourself.
Thank you very much. And dear viewers, like if we were sort of to come to a conclusion here, Karl Marx definitely was and still is perceived by millions around the world as a great thinker, as a great philosopher, economist, even reformer, actually, more than anything else. Other people might see him as the devil himself, or as, as a sort of a demon, really. And again, it all lies in the interpretation. It all lies in the perspective. So two people walking in opposite sides, they're walking on the sidewalk, and then in the middle, there's something on the ground, which is someone might say it's an M, the other one will say it's a W. Well, both are correct. Depends on from which side are you seeing it. One will see it as a 9, the other will see it as a 6. Again, it's a matter of perspective, really. And so it's I don't want to say like it's naive or people who do this are very gullible, but it's not very proper, really, to demonize someone or to make someone divine at the same time. There's always part of this and that. But something that Karl Marx should always be commended for is that he, tried to steer, still waters, tried to move all these still waters that prevailed during the Middle Ages. And because religion was part and parcel, actually, of most of the atrocities that happened during the Middle Ages. And unfortunately, during part of the, like the Renaissance period as well. And so we definitely, if there's something we can take from Karl Marx, is to ponder, to think, to have some form of insight, and to always believe that there is nothing such as the universal absolute truth. There can be an absolute truth for you, for me, but there is no absolute truth that we're 100% sure that we must enforce on others. Dear viewers, till we meet again, I hope you have a very pleasant time. Thanks for watching.